What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. I'm Clark Taylor. It is Thursday, December the 26th. We're going to be breaking down Dynamite on 34th Street. I'm stoked about it. Got a wicked crew with me. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you had an excellent holidays. First and foremost, I'm going to send this one out to the East Coast of the good old US of A, to a friend of mine, the Tuesday Night Delight on a Thursday afternoon. Shoddy, what is good?
What's good, bro? It feels like it's been a while since I've been on anything podcast related, so I'm happy to be back. Happy holidays to all the people out there, internationally, who follow us. I hope y'all had a joyous holiday spirit. We are coming to the end of the year, and hey, man, we got a lot to talk about, so I'm hyped for it.
Absolutely. I'm fired up and glad to have you back. It has been far too long. We've already got I Make Beats in the comments. I love this. Sup, guys? Happy holidays. Happy holidays, my friend. Thank you for tuning in as always. And of course, we can't get the show started without our resident AEW diehard. I almost made that into one word. Someday I can probably figure that one out. But either way, across the pond over in Scotland, the host of the Soul Sessions himself, the aforementioned Soul. I accidentally hit the wrong button there.
Wow, you and buttons, mate. They don't really go
We're back.
well.
Yeah, buttons are not going well right now.
Yeah, I'm no bad. Still in the PJs as I've been all day, doing what I need to do. Playing video games as I am enjoying time off away from everything. But then again, I did stay up and watch good old Dynamite, which was an absolute amazing episode in the Hammerstein.
Yep.
And I think I'll say this off when we get into our first topic, that this year's Continental Classic was better than last year's, in my opinion.
I think so too, Soul, and I'm kind of shocked by that. You don't usually see that. There was a lot of complaint about the Continental Classic last year when it came to the format initially. I think it was hard to understand the way it was explained for some reason. There's a lot of good storylines in it. Something felt different about this year's. And it did make a lot of sense. Don't get me wrong. We had Dynamite on 34th Street last night. This wasn't exactly a miracle on 34th Street, how we got to Ospreay and Fletcher. That was a bit predictable when it came to, the two groups, the blue and the gold. But at the end of the day, it was so well executed. I have no issues with it. And I'm in agreement. I think it's the better Continental Classic of the two. And I think the future of the Continental Classic is brighter than I anticipated. It's easy because it's the same company to compare it to the Owen tournament style wise. Expectations wise, I didn't expect the Continental to improve like this. I think it worked. I Make Beats is saying good matches, wrong order. I think that's kind of fair. It's also hard to book the order of the matches when you have a tournament with this many people in it and the round robin style, right? If it was single elimination, you can logically book the matches in order. That's not the case until you get to the end. And so you do have to stick with what got you there so that the tournament can stand up as being fair from a rules perspective. Right. And I think there's something organic about that does make sense to me, even though, like, by going not logically putting it in order for storyline exclusive, it's actually, it makes the tournament seem more legit in some way. I don't know. Maybe I'm waffling there on that one, but I do have to ask both you guys about this one. Shad, I'm going to start with you. We got this finals. We've got the rematch between Fletcher and Ospreay, former friends, former stablemates, the whole nine. There's been a great story told.
Round three.
Yeah, round three. Yeah, I guess the rubber match, I should say. But the Fletcher Ospreay, former sort of mentor, right? Almost older brother type figure to Fletcher. If you really think about it, this run that Kyle Fletcher's been on, though, is off the charts. Who would have thought that a haircut would just entirely change the perspective on somebody coming into this year? I complained about Fletcher all year last year. I didn't get him. I didn't understand what I was watching. I don't anymore. I get excited for a Kyle Fletcher segment, and it's working. I'm excited for these finals. Do you have an early prediction, and how did you like the execution yourself, Shadi?
Well, first and foremost, kudos to AEW for, bringing the Continental Classic in these round robin style tournaments to American television. Obviously, we know these are prevalent in like New Japan, heavy influence on that. And I cut them slack. This is weekly television. This is a program where you have to try to really cover bases of a lot of other stuff on the show. So being able to do that, you don't have the luxury as easy as how New Japan does it. But I think it's been executed very well. I think the components and the stars in the match have been great to put into it. We got a lot of great matches. And look at last night, the matches that led to the semifinals, the two matches that we're talking about in the beginning, with a Kyle Fletcher and a Daniel Garcia. I said it on the Twitter page on the Shad analysis. Sorry, Ben, I'm taking over now. But I think Daniel Garcia and Kyle Fletcher, both young superstars, are the epitome of what AEW needs to do. They need to create the stars of the future. They need to give us kind of homegrown talent. And I think they've knocked it out the park with both of these guys, especially Kyle Fletcher. You mentioned the haircut, but it's the attitude. It's the cockiness. It's the confidence within himself. I gave a lot of credit to Don Callis, but I got to give him credit too. He's been watching a lot of game tapes of Randy Orton. He reminds me of a mix of, 09 Orton, but he also gives me a mix of the young, evolution Randy Orton too, being the young guy who's just coming there, not caring about nobody, wreaking havoc, a little bit of that legend killer sense to him. And I think he's just been really, really good. In regards to Ospreay, you knew he was going to be in some sort of the iterations of the finals, semifinals of this. This is what Ospreay does, man. We've loved to appreciate Ospreay over in Japan, what he was doing in New Japan. But now we're really seeing how big of a superstar he is on American television. And he's kind of been one of the more, people you've been hyped to see during the whole entire tournament. He's given us so many spectacular matches. Him and Brody King was a great match. He defeated the odds. He won against the big giant. And I think them getting to this rematch is the right choice because we saw how the last one went. The understudy got the leg up on him. Now, can Ospreay, win game 3, win the series? That's something that I am excited to see that does happen because the chemistry of the in-ring match is great, but like these two guys tell a great story to go against each other. And I don't think this is the end of the story. This is something that's going to probably be replayed as long as these both guys are in AEW. So kudos to, Ospreay, kudos to Fletcher, kudos to Daniel Garcia and Brody King. I will say Daniel Garcia is going to have to do some legwork after this tournament to kind of get himself back hot again as a talent because he took some losses in here as a champ. And that's one thing where I kind of wish he wasn't in the tournament. But Brody King strapped the rocket on him, bro. It's time. It is
no doubt. I'm 100% with you, Brody King, and I think both years Brody King has been underrated in this tournament. He's been awesome. One thing I will say, I do have to apologize. I believe I said finals and not semifinals. Obviously, there's the two. It's the group finals, right? Yeah. Is what I actually meant to say.
No, you good.
I think I'm nervous after my little botch post Raw, like about being correct on things. I got to make sure people know that I did actually watch this.
Now, Clark watched it. He was talking about the match. He was talking about the show last night amongst us. Don't worry, he watched it.
Yeah. This time I did see it. No, but I'm 100% with you. And Brody King standing out once again in this tournament, I think, is a big deal. Ospreay, Fletcher, obviously one end of the semifinals here. It makes perfect sense. I love that. I actually enjoy that it's not the final, right? That it's it. I think it would have been goofy had you got to a spot where it was just like, oh man, we so obviously did this entire tournament to build to the payoff between these two. We didn't have to. Yeah. We get it in the context of the tournament, and then we'll see what happens with, and we're going to discuss Okada Ricochet later, but Soul, obviously we can't move on before I get your thoughts on it. The Continental Classic as a whole, you started this by saying that you prefer this year's to last, and I'm with you on that. Give me some of those reasons, though, as well.
I agree, too, so.
I think just the varied amount of competitors in this year's Classic was surpassed last year's. Yeah, of course, there was obviously Bryan, Andrade, Brody, Mark, Briscoe, and so many obviously other individuals. But this year's one, I just felt it brought out the best of everyone in it. Like, yes, of course, someone like Beast Mortis took 0 points, and Commander, a substitution for Juice Robinson, only getting the 1 point. Well, 3 points, 1 win, but came out of a fun story kind of way, obviously with Claudio and the jacket and the Nux. The only thing though is obviously these are semi-final matches what we've got here for World's End, meaning that the final could be obviously any one of these matchups, but realistically, from the booking point of it, you want the finals to be a matchup from one column to another. So that means, are we going to get Osprey and Okada or Fletcher or Ricochet? Now, my main thing is I want Fletcher to win this. I want Fletcher to become the Continental Champion, because I think that'd be a great thing for him to do. But then again, Grand Slam Australia, what if the final is Osprey and Okada? Osprey gets the belt, and we get Fletcher and Osprey match up again in Grand Slam Australia for the Continental Championship. So there are many steps to this, but I think this key thing is it's to set up Fletcher. Now, my dream scenario, if I was to do this booking, I don't like the idea of the Continental Championship really anymore if it's not the Triple Crown. I think the Continental Classic as a main event title shot at Revolution would be more suffice, or even an immediate title shot at World's End after the show or something like that. So I would have it down the line as the Don Callis family has the infighting. It's like, well, what better way to start the fighting than just let it go? Title versus title, Fletcher and Takeshita, International Continental unification match. Get rid of one of them and then, have Takeshita win it. So he unifies it, and then you can put Fletcher into the main title picture, which I think is the direction they should go. But nonetheless, I think the Classic this year was stellar. I think every match on TV and how TV time was allocated for the Classic was done in the right way it could have been. Obviously, with Rampage ending this year and next year's Continental Classic, how will they work the time? Because they did have to use Rampage for some of these matches. Some of them were catch-up. Some of them were obviously just other matches put on that card. So with them losing an hour of TV time, how will it affect the Classic next year is my main interest.
Yeah, that is a great call, and I don't mind the idea of the unification thing. So, you've discussed that with me in the past, not even really on air, but I think that's smart when it comes to the international and the continental, especially. Right? It's just that's where we're at. I think mentally speaking, like it's hard to even remember which is which until it's tournament time.
I said this before, it's not needed anymore because the idea of a Continental Crown was interesting because it kind of symbolizes the relationship between AEW and New Japan with Ring of Honor on the side. And it was a great visual. Like Eddie Kingston's promo pictures with the 3 belts is a great visual. But when they broke up the crown, it was like, well, why was this belt even introduced anymore? And the thing is, TK is very reluctant to get rid of things. I feel like the FTW Championship vacancy was only because Taz kind of twisted his hand. In my opinion, maybe this was a grand plan all along for the FTW Championship.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I think the Continental is a nice looking belt. It looks very nice.
To me, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I feel like I agree with that point. And I also think with it having matches at World's End, if this is a thing that's a yearly occurrence going into World End, I would just even start it a little bit beforehand and let it be the winner gets the title shot for the AEW Championship, and we have them go against the Continental Classic winner at World's End and make World's End just a bigger pay-per-view that way.
I would do the finals at World's End only because you can get a great visual of whoever's the champion. If the winner retain at the end of the night, you can get that shot of the Continental Champion who's won their main event match for Revolution just staring down their opponent, and you know where you're going. When you leave World's End, you know what the main event of Revolution is. You know where the title picture's going.
That's a good point.
So I think that's what you should do. If I was holding books, final of the Continental Classic, you get a main event title shot at Revolution.
Yeah, I do dig that a lot. So I will say also, we've got some comments over here from my Make Beats, and I like these two. He said Brody King is great. I want to see him in some singles pay-per-view bangers. How about Brody versus Takeshita for the title? Book that. Okay. I know we just had a discussion about combining the titles,
Nasty.
but in a separate. Now, this is really interesting too, and I don't want to go on too long of a tangent, but let's talk about this for a second. He said, "I miss Eddie," as in Kingston, and me too. I don't think anybody doesn't. But one thing I will say about like his absence in some ways in the last year, if you look at the first Continental Classic, he was finally getting rewarded for the work that he put in to get him there in the first place in AEW and whatnot. But just to the naked eye, it seemed like his body was breaking down.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the extended break, and not even break, but right, like the extended sort of absence, he's having time to get in a spot where he can take advantage of the groundwork he laid in AEW since he's gotten here. That is what I wish for Eddie Kingston more than anything.
One of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. One of my favorite wrestlers in general. I think he's one of the more like relatable people in pro wrestling. He's got such a passion to him. You know, like I compare him in the likes of like how I feel the same way about like Sami Zayn. You know, people like that. Like they give you so much about them, how much they love it, how much they love the business. And, you know, seeing him go through a, you know, severe injury like that, it sucks, man. And I really do hope he's able to, you know, take some time off, rehab, get right again, and, you know, because that's a guy who really deserves to be him and Darby are two dudes that when they become AEW champions, I think the world, like all the AEW fans are going to go ape shit for how hyped they're going to be for it, bro. Like it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be big for sure. Let's keep it rolling here though. Without question, let's talk about the chaos last night. Headed into World's End, we've got this fatal 4-way. We got Jon Moxley, the belt in the briefcase situation, and everything that goes with that. We've got Orange Cassidy, we've got Jay White, and we've got Hangman Adam Page. Really, really an interesting deal here. There's one thing about last night that I truly loved. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Don't touch the belt. Do not touch the belt. And they all look at the briefcase and said, nope, not this time. Not this time. I was tickled by that visual. That made the whole thing for me. I'm excited about it because you know what my first thought was, dang, somebody's got a shot to take this belt. To take this belt off Moxley, and I didn't think that I would have that feeling headed to World's End at any point. I thought this would be Moxley knocking down 3 dominoes at one time, and that was my fear, right? Just an easy whoops, and then it's over. I don't think that's what we're getting. I think it's either going to be closer than we expect. They're going to get us for this one, and that excites me. To have a fatal 4-way like this with this much talent, guys that, you know, the word pillar gets thrown around often. You also have Jay White former Bullet Club leader. You have a lot of star power in this match, and they're treating it as such. The simplicity of the storytelling there, I appreciated last night. That is something I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out when it's match time. Shad, are you in agreement on that, or did you see some maybe holes when it came to the storytelling when it comes to this one?
Nah, man. I honestly don't have a lot of criticism about the entire storyline. I think you look at someone like Jon Moxley, and I feel like the word genius has to be tied to him. I feel like he has one of the more interesting minds in professional wrestling, from how he attacks characters, like how he attacks the approach of character, you know, being in the business for as long as he has, being on top of the world in professional wrestling as long as he has, you know, and finding ways to kind of, you know, reinvent himself in a sense, you know, and him leaving WWE, you know, bringing back Jon Moxley was a reinvention, right? You know, going through the demons of life and coming back was a reinvention. And this entire storyline of the Death Riders and how they're kind of going against the establishment and trying to create AEW in their image has been so good to me. Like, I really think it's been great. You know, I know a lot of people complain about a lot of rinse, repeat situations that may happen or whatever with it. But it all ties together. And you talk about the upset of the night last night, right? Commander beating Claudia, right? And getting the one up, getting the kind of the helping hand from another enemy of the Death Riders, a Darby Allin, and then the Death Riders coming out and just completely beating them down. The continuity of the team is what makes sense. They're all aligned to everything, and it makes sense every time they step into the arena. And every person they attack, just the fact that it's them versus it's us versus them, and that's everybody. I don't care if you're a babyface. I don't care if you're a heel. Us versus them is going to always make sense in storylines, and that's the brilliance of it. That's why it's such a good storyline. That's why Moxley is such a good character, because it goes like the best characters are those people that, are in that gray area, right? Not everything got to be black and white. Everything can be in that gray area. He plays the gray area so well. And yeah, there's a level of uncertainty just because forget about the briefcase portion. I do like that. And I'm interested to see what comes upon the briefcase, because I think there's more layers to that. You're 25% chance of winning, but it could be less because you have a level of difficulty. You got a former champion. You got someone who's been a historic champion for another belt in Orange Cassidy. You got Jay White, who's a big time person who's accomplished the amount, and just the fact that these three have been butting heads against each other like they did last week, but the common enemy for themselves is to get their hands on Moxley. It leaves you with so many different variables to see what the situation may happen. And at the end of the day, it's going to probably come into Moxley's benefit just because they're all going to try to get their hands on him, and they're all going to, F each other over where it works for Moxley. So I just think everything about this storyline has been fantastic, and I'm loving it.
I am with you 100%. I think Mox is awesome. I love this. I Make Beats said Mox got my dad's tough love attitude for real. That cracked me up. Yeah, no doubt about it. And like you said, the unity and the idea that nobody's safe, there's a lot of brilliance there. Okay, I got one more comment I want to read. Little Fettuccine 68 with thoughts on the PWI #1 wrestler of the year. Yes, I do. You're going to want to, in mid-January, check out Wrestling Republic's yearly awards, and then you'll see all my thoughts. It'll be great. Definitely don't miss that. That's going to be about mid-January. Speaking of mid-January or even late December, though, if you are watching this show, the secret's out. We know you like pro wrestling, maybe even as much as we do. I've got something good for y'all. Demand Progress Plus is one of the best tape libraries and streaming services on the internet. If you're a wrestling fan, you can see some of your absolute all-time favorites where they cut their teeth, not to mention every chapter gets better and better. Current product is off the charts. Some of the best wrestling you can possibly find, and we're going to give you a deal. So use this code WATCHPROGRESS1. You're going to get 50% off. That's half for those who prefer fractions. Half off for your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress, Defy, and many more promotions. There's all kinds of good stuff on here. I assure you, check it out. It's worth it. Take our word for it on this one. Once again, use that code WATCHPROGRESS1. That's 50% off. Month #1 for all kinds of high-quality wrestling. But speaking of high-quality wrestling, let's keep discussing last night's Dynamite. We got Toni Storm and Taya Valkyrie in the building. Toni Storm, obviously, it's great to see her finally in AEW, according to her, right? It's been a long time coming. And so it's nice to see her finally get in an AEW ring for the first time. I love this story. I love what Toni Storm is doing when it comes to character work. I think it's underrated. I think it's unique to her. I think she made a decision at some point when she made the move to AEW from WWE after the Charlotte Flair pie Thanksgiving segment that was absurd over on WWE television. Toni Storm is somebody that has a ton of charisma, and we found that out the easy way because she gave us nothing but entertainment over the last couple years since she signed with AEW. And that is what she's dang good at. And I am so impressed by it because it's innovative. Yes, we can point to a few things that are similar wrestling history wise, maybe the faces of Foley, things like that, right? But you can only count them on one hand. And that to me is mind blowing when you talk about Toni Storm. It's good to have her back. Was it my favorite Toni Storm match in AEW? Let's be real. Maybe not. But she gets the victory over Taya Valkyrie, and the direction for the future of Toni Storm in AEW, in my eyes, is bright. How do you feel about all that, Soul? And what were your thoughts on the match last night?
So in my head right now, there are two women who could be Women's Wrestler of the Year. One of them is Roxanne Perez, and the other one is Toni Storm. Like, Toni Storm is just amazing. And the fact is, like, she's only 29 as well, so she's not really even hit her technical prime, as some would say. And she's putting on this kind of caliber of a wrestler. It is phenomenal. I felt like, for myself, the structure of this match felt like an AEW dark match, or like, those matches where they bring in talents and it's just like the lucky intro, and it's like, oh, we're going for that because that's what Toni is portraying. Like, even on the socials, they portray her coming to the arena and shaking everybody's hand and getting changed in the hallway to like not upset the locker room, and that stuff's kind of funny. And it's playing on this idea of Toni's like mentally reset herself, or is trying to play coy so she can get closer to Mariah May to get the belt back. I enjoy Toni, and I feel like obviously Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo as the Vendettas have settled into the role as, enhancers. Best way to say it, and has an established enhancement team, like, of the back in the day, obviously, like the B team and the Ascension, teams that were established, but they were made to obviously enhance other teams or individuals. And that's a role wrestling needs. So if you can fit that role and do that well, on you go. I'm excited to see where Toni takes her career with this. Obviously, World Ends, she's not booked for it, and I kind of think that would be really interesting. Just keep her not really booked on pay-per-views and feel like she has to make her way in and get into it. Like, it'd be kind of funny, like they did the Women's Casino Battle Royale, and Toni is just like one of the entrants, and they don't even pay attention to her, or maybe she gets eliminated rather quickly to like kind of show her regression. It's like maybe over a beginner, rookie. Like, I just think that'd be kind of funny. Like, I feel like that's kind of like an interesting way to do it.
I'm so with you, and like, even I Make Beats said the memory loss Toni Storm is so good. It's some way you can just keep it so that she's doing character work. I guess that's where I'm at, right? I don't want her suddenly to just become regular Toni Storm because she's so great at the character work. That's my only fear.
She's cut from the cloth of Matt Hardy, Chris Jericho, and Mick Foley, bro. Yeah. She's cut from that cloth. She knows how to reinvent herself and make stuff interesting and fresh. So that's not easy to do. People give Jericho a lot of ish. That dude is great. He knows how to do it. Same with Foley, is a legend, probably the best at it, as well as Matt Hardy. She's special, bro. She's a brilliant mind. It's phenomenal what she's done.
If you really want to know how Toni has evolved and become such a better wrestler, like, we have the network for another 5 days. Go back and watch some of the old NXT UK where Toni was on that brand back in like 2017, 18. Like, that Toni Storm to what we have now is like a massive leap. Yeah, it's still the kind of same rocker gimmick, but it's phenomenal how much she's improved from her days in NXT UK.
Even when she was on Black and Gold for a brief, I would have never guessed that she had this type of, even from when she first signed to AEW, I would have never imagined that this would be coming into fruition. But it's dope to see, man.
I genuinely think the two that you have to name when it comes to AEW that have done that, when it comes to crossing over from other companies, are Toni Storm and Swerve. Those are the two that like immediately come to my mind, where it's like, no, you completely elevated yourself to another level. There's a few others, but those are the first two.
We're gonna talk about the third.
Yeah, Shad just wants to talk about Mr. Bald.
It's totally fair. I am laughing at this one, that we have Los Angeles Rampart audits, which is why is the AEW crowd empty most of the time. The same reason the Rams can't fill SoFi for a Thursday night game.
Interesting. I went to AEW Dynamite last Wednesday, and it was full.
It was full.
And they had 3 sellouts in the Hammerstein, and GCW can't even get halfway.
Also, why are you so excited to pimp that? Like, why are you trying to dance on like the ticket numbers? That seems like a feelings thing from that direction. And
sounds like no offense, Clark.
That sounds like
sounds like a Los Angeles problem because he's probably
none taken. I'm from Chicago. You know that. I only live here.
Everything is expensive over there. They got it's like $50 for a water bottle.
It's ridiculous. I don't even like going to LA.
Yeah, Raw debut prices are pretty still extortionate high, so I'm happy to sit that out and just catch it.
I make beats. We got sickos. Rosario with Shy City. Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's home.
Was good, twin.
And then I'm a fan of Tony, but she has more than 98%. But she has more than I think 98% talent than more talent than 98% of the AEW rosters. I think what Rosario meant. I think I've read that on your news about her running for the Rookie of the Year. That would be amazing. As storyline. Oh my God, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that would be outstanding.
I said that on the Twitter. 2025 Rookie of the Year. We going
2025 Rookie of the Year. Tony Storm in AEW would be iconic. If they have like a Slammy award, basically the modern day Slammy, I would die for that. Yes, book that, please. I'm begging you.
That's funny.
Okay, so Shad, I'm not even going to make you wait. We've got Okada Ricochet in our other semifinal. Rick O'Shea, my favorite Irish wrestler, of course. But at the end of the day, it's set for World's End. We got both semis at World's End. Talk to me about this one. Ricochet's looked great since he's been in AEW, and I'm excited about it, man.
Here we go.
Isn't it funny that a wrestler who wrestled on a company where the premise is sports entertainment and character work, wasn't able to find the character work, wasn't able to be the outgoing character he is, was deemed as boring, can't cut a promo. The moment he steps to the promotion that's all about professional wrestling, it's only in-ring stuff. They don't tell stories. They don't have characters. He is one of the more over heels, has shown a lot of charisma, has a lot more comfortability when he's talking. He's part of storylines, not just being the guy who's getting squashed or being the dance partner all the time. Isn't that kind of odd? I thought this was supposed to happen in the WWE. Why is this happening in AEW? Maybe the IWC was too quick to jump on my guy Ricochet, and they were too quick to dunk on Ricochet. Well, they didn't realize the dude is super talented, and he's showing why he's talented. Ricochet is doing phenomenal character work. And I'm not here to talk about the wrestling. We know he can wrestle. Y'all still stealing his moves. We know he can wrestle. The man got character, and that is something that y'all did not expect to see, but he's showing it. I love everything about the storyline that he's doing right now. I think him playing this overly cocky, annoying heel is so damn perfect. He is literally thriving, feeding off of all the criticism y'all trolls use with him online. And it is working so damn well. You even got my man Curvin over here mad about what I'm saying cap.
No, I'm wearing the cap, but that is no cap.
My man is cooking right now, and I am super excited for him to get to the semifinals. Him and Okada is going to be good. Him and Darby was a really good match last night, and I love that it went to no contest, and you just see Ricochet so happy, so excited to talk about, I made it to the semifinals. You see that going on with this whole banter with him and Swerve. Him and Swerve is a feud that's going to be very interesting. Of course, you got to tie to everything that goes with the Hurt Syndicate as well. But my goodness, bro, he is doing great work. And I love it. All of y'all are mad about it. But I am happy. My bald-headed brother Ricochet is cooking.
It's fascinating to me because and Rosario made a great point here in the comments. I love this. He said he can still cut a promo though. Ricochet is now in a position where he can make mistakes and go on. I'm a fan of his heat now. I am too.
Dominic Mysterio can't cut no promo, but we love him because he gets all the heat. He's a heat magnet.
He said the more people hate him, the more I like him. I have that same problem with really good heel work in wrestling as a fan. It happens to me every single time. I'm like, I can't stand him as a corny babyface, and then they start talking just the proper amount of trash, and suddenly I'm a fan. This is one thing I do really, really like with Ricochet is, the famous Deion Sanders gets hired as head coach at University of Colorado football. And he does I come into a room and I make people nervous. And they twiddle their thumbs. They start shifting in their seat. That's where Ricochet's at. He's just getting enough under people's skin, right? He doesn't have to do too much. And it is the best shot. You made the perfect point about it. It is the best character work of his career by miles. It's not close.
Ricochet was getting toilet paper thrown at him. I mean,
it bothers people.
That's awesome as anything. I don't give two rats what anyone moans about just because they left the other company and you turn on them faster than some turncoats. It's because his wife left and now she doesn't say, announcing wasn't my actual passion. Everybody brings out their pitchforks and doesn't care. People saying AEW is just a bunch of WWE guys. Yeah, that's fair because it was the biggest industry for the longest time. But wasn't the golden era of WWE or WWF just former AWA guys? Wasn't the Attitude Era just a lot of former WCW guys? Like, it's the way the business works. But Ricochet has fallen into his own spot of a position where he can make mistakes and not feel threatened to get taken off TV right away or just chucked to the wayside. The thing is with AEW, when a lot of WWE people come in, there is that hype and enjoyment for them coming over because a lot of people will feel like they're in the right company or feel like they made the right decision for their career. So they'll be a babyface for a while. But then when the grain goes against them or something happens or the shine runs off, there'll be the hatred and they're like, oh, we're not fun of them. And then they'll become heels because then it'll work well because they'll do something that they weren't doing before. Like Ricochet always in WWE, to me at least, was just the babyface, flippy guy or enhancer guy. Now in here, he has a character of being a cocky guy, trying to show off his smirkiness. Like, yeah, I'm cool, flippy guy and all that. I can do all this. So you all want me, right? You want to be my friend. You want to face me in the ring. You want to tussle with me, boy. And it's like get the hell out of here, but Jesus Christ. But it's enjoyable. Like that's the main thing with wrestling. At the end of the day, you have to be enjoyable. Whether it's enjoyable as a worker or as enjoyable as a talker, you have to be enjoyable. And he's getting reactions. If he was getting silence and doing all his flip moves and all that, that's worrying. But people were throwing toilet paper at this man, and one hit him right in the groin. I mean, come on, that's
and he sold it.
Anything. I love it. I think Ricochet and Okada will be an amazing match. Imagine how cocky Ricochet will be if he beats Okada.
Oh.
Like, imagine the dude's gonna remember that clip of Randy Orton where he does like a RKO and he spreads his legs and he jumps up and touches like his toes at the same time. Like if Ricochet does that or he does a handstand or like flips or like pulls out little confetti things and starts dancing in the middle of the ring, I would absolutely piss myself.
Or if he starts like I want him to do the pump fake on the dive that he used to do. The one and only one where he'd like roll up the ropes like he's going to do a big suicide dive and then he just bounce back into the ring and do a cartwheel.
He's going to make it very compelling to let him win this tournament just because it's the same thing with Dominic Mysterio, bro. Like it's the same thing when he won the North American title on NXT.
He flipped me.
You got it. This is basic booking, bro. Tony's seeing the heat. He's seeing how much it's cool to hate on him. They found their heat magnet. This is great.
Absolutely. I am with you. Also, we just started a new faction here, Rosario, with the BWO, the Bald World Order. I'm in 100%. Absolutely. Too sweet.
Also, sweet. Also, one thing I have to because I'm sorry, we made this the Ricochet segment. Okada and Shelton Benjamin was underwhelming of a match.
It was.
And I hate to say that.
It was. Bobby did say too sweet, though. I love that. Yes.
I think
You're
the thing
man,
with
Bobby.
that though is that in wrestling,
Yeah.
not everybody clicks. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
there's multiple matchups or dream matches that we will think of that have happened and didn't deliver. Like Britt Baker, Mercedes Moné didn't really deliver to the hype that a lot of people thought it would.
It felt like there was a feeling out process in the match because they hadn't maybe worked together closely beforehand.
No, it's the first time they ever worked together.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of what I'm saying is like I think towards the end of the match you could see more. I'd actually like to see a rematch. I think there was sort of a feeling out period where both guys were in a position like I'm not really sure what to expect here.
I will say this though, because obviously we've talked a lot about Ricochet, but where does Okada go from here? I think it's something we have to do.
It's interesting. I've
got it. I've got
if
it
he
in my head.
clotheslines Ricochet's head off, then it'll be different.
Lads, this is it. Okada will lose the Continental Championship. Things will happen. Revolution. I think it will be a situation will happen where the Elite don't really come back, or the Young Bucks are just there. And the big thing you do for Okada in 2025. All in Texas, Omega Okada 6.
Oh, now we're talking. Yeah. Yes. Sign. Where do I sign? So send me the paperwork over. Because I'll buy the pay-per-view early. That's no joke. I mean, I'm gonna watch it anyway, but like that, I love that idea. Because Omega, we all know it's hopefully getting close. We don't know, but we all think it's hopefully getting close based on like the news of late. And, he's back health wise. Close to, but he's such a key cog in everything AEW wise. How he re-enters the fold is as interesting as anything. Old Reliable, a guy he's comfortable working with, him and Okada is I think it's a really intelligent idea, Soul, and I got to give you credit for that. 100%, because I've been trying to book it as him being the one that's either the savior or encouraging Hangman to be the savior against Moxley. But
here's the thing: you do obviously Wrestle Dynasty, Gabe Kidd, and all that. I am like Okada's not announced for the card or appearing at Wrestle Kingdom, but even just a stare down there, then you set the things up for him coming back at Dynamite after. I've seen people moan about why is Omega not on Dynamite. As I've said before, AEW has to give back to New Japan in some way. What better way to give back to a company where technically you've stolen 3 of their top talents?
And most of your guys, than that, arguably.
It's grassroots, man.
Yeah, and you win a lot of their matches against their guys. You give them one of your biggest stars, one who was a part of your company for the longest time, really took it through its prime, and you let him have the return match. It's not a massive thing where like people are saying it's the end of the world or stuff like that. It's a nice gesture.
I think so too. I'm in total agreement on that. But by the way, that does probably bring us to the end of the show today. We appreciate everybody that tuned in. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. That's noon Pacific, 3 o'clock in the East. Of course, that's 8 o'clock in the UK and 9 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. Have an excellent rest of your Thursday. On behalf of me, Clark, Soul, and Shad, and everybody at WR, we will talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much.